Hey everyone, I'm Sam Valenti, and today I have the amazing honor of talking with one of the best sports broadcasters in the business today, Michelle McMahon. Michelle, I just saw a few days ago that you got to MC the NPH USA Legends Classic dinner. I got to ask, what was that experience like?
Oh, you're sweet, Sam. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Sorry for my dog joining the interview here as well, Maverick. That was such a wonderful event. I think such an important part of all of us as humans and as broadcasters, keeping perspective in our own lives is participating in charities and foundations that are bigger than ourselves. So it was such a great opportunity. I got to meet so many cool people, so many cool legends from the Chicago area, and people that I got to rub elbows with, which was really, really cool. And then of course it was just a really great event, and for such a good purpose too. um the guy John Shinsky that really launched this project and this mission developed it because he was an orphan growing up. And so his passion burns very strong for helping underprivileged kids that don't have the same opportunity as maybe people like you and I. Of course, don't know your background as familiar, but it's just, it was really special and really, really honored to be a part of it. And it's different talking to a group of people that are watching you versus cameras. I'll say that much.
Well, it's certainly awesome that you got to be a part of that, and like I was saying, earlier before we got recording. I mean, you've been everywhere. It just seems like you're traveling all around, doing all this sort of stuff. What's it like going to all these different places and being a part of all these different events?
Yeah, it's a lot of travel, that's for sure, which comes with, I mean, it's certainly a blessing. I'm very, very grateful to be at this point in my career, where I have this many opportunities. But there's another side of that coin. Travel can be a lot on your body, and it can be a lot on your, just mental health and physical health. You got to really stay on top of it. But it's so cool. I mean, to see different parts of the country. Like right now, for example, I'm doing this interview from San Clemente, California, where the PPA tour is. And so I get to go from the West Coast to the East Coast, which is really, really fun. I always appreciate travel. And it's funny on my off weeks when I'm not working, I'm most of the time off to just sit at home and not travel. Like, it's my friends are like, "Do you want to go on a trip?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to go on a trip. I have one weekend off this month and I don't want to travel." But no, it's great. I try to balance it. I try to keep my mental and physical health in check. That's key for me, but it's great all around.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's get into a bit of your background now. You were big into sports growing up, and you played a lot of different sports, soccer, volleyball, tennis, just to name a few. And while you were playing club volleyball, your club coaches, they reach out to the coaches at Michigan, and you get offered that walk-on spot to go play volleyball at the University of Michigan. So, what was your reaction like when you got that offer?
To be honest with you, at first I was like in disbelief because I didn't really believe that I was good enough to play at a school like Michigan. Like, I knew I was good enough to play at maybe like a D2 or a D3 school or a lower level D1, but I was shocked because I didn't really lobby for that opportunity. My club coaches just knew I really wanted to go to Michigan. That was in my heart all along. I'm a fourth generation Wolverine. My whole family went there. So I think I limited it in my own mind as even an option or a possibility. And probably by way of just like not disappointing myself if I didn't ever achieve that goal. And then my club coaches kind of surprised me with that. And I was like, I'm like, really? They want me? Like, are they sure? And so that was kind of the start of really everything for me in sports. Of course, as you mentioned, played sports my whole life, but playing at the University of Michigan was an honor I never really imagined I'd be able to achieve in my life, especially at my height. I'm only 5'4", and these girls in the Big Ten they're freaking 6'4" and above. You don't really make it as far as a smaller player. But yeah, it was pretty shocking, but really, again, just another curveball, I guess, in a positive way, where I was not really expecting my life to take that turn. And then there we were.
And what would you say were your fondest memories from playing volleyball at Michigan?
Great question. Honestly, it was a challenging experience in a lot of ways, and but it was something that I feel like I really benefited from in so many different ways. Like I've never been pushed that hard ever, even to date, that physically, mentally, emotionally, in all the ways than I was as a Division I college athlete. So I would say the best parts of it were you really learn a lot about yourself, a lot about discipline, how to manage a schedule. Like nothing I've done to this point in my career is as challenging as that experience was. Just in, like I said, kind of hit on all the markers. And then for me, your question was, what are the best parts? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Best parts. Okay. For me, one of the biggest blessings was working with Greg Harden, who has worked with some much bigger athletes than myself, Tom Brady, Desmond Howard. He's kind of in my opinion, the secret weapon behind the scenes of Michigan athletics. And so getting the chance to work with him before he's retired and off doing bigger and better things now after Michigan was honestly the biggest blessing. He set me up mentally and with my mindset and my attitude. He prepared me in such a big way to be able to handle the career path that I have now embarked on. And honestly, if it wasn't for Greg, I'm not sure I'd be doing what I'm doing. I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that could have went off the rails for me, and he really helped me out and saved me in a lot of ways. So that was by far and away the biggest blessing of my Michigan volleyball experience. And then, of course, being in the athletic community, really cool rubbing elbows with the fellow athletes. You're going to the athletic center to do studying with all the football guys that are, trying to achieve the same thing you are in school, and basketball guys and tennis girls. I mean, there's just like a community of people that kind of understand what all of us are going through. Like there's a lot of pressure as a D1 athlete. There's a lot of perks, but there's a lot of pressure, and it's hard to relate to if you haven't gone through it. So that was really nice too, to have a community of people that I'm bonded with for life. Like I run into my fellow Michigan Wolverines. I went to the Michigan football game, the national championship game, and ran into like 10 people that I hadn't seen in 10 years. And it's just really cool that you just continue that bond from afar, and when you see each other and pick up where you left off.
Mm. Now, what's pretty interesting is I read that you actually made your volleyball debut for Michigan against the school I attend, Arizona State.
Is that right? Is that what it was? Maybe you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, because I found that's what
Okay.
it said on your bio on like the Michigan website.
Okay, good research. Good on you for being so meticulous with your research. Yeah, that's funny. I don't remember that. But you're right, because it had to have been, because that was back we were playing them in the tournament.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
some sort of tournament thing. Yeah.
NCAA tournament, probably. That's awesome. I don't even remember it, honestly. I feel like I blacked out. I think I went in for like one serve, maybe my freshman year, just so I could get the varsity letter of being on the team. Because you can't carry the varsity letter unless you play in one match. So that was probably my 15 seconds of fame there that year. But that's so funny. Blast from the past.
Yep, certainly. You've said in the past that your time at Michigan, from what I hear, I mean, it was super fun, but it was also very challenging. You said that
Yeah.
probably the hardest 4 years of your life. So
Hmm.
how did you go about navigating those challenges as a student athlete?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's easier for me to reflect on it now, obviously, now that I'm so far removed from the situation. And it's not like it was like a completely, totally negative situation, but there were a lot of layers of challenges to it, with number one, not having as solid of a foundation as I thought I had coming into college, of, a really strong sense of identity of who I was. And that's where somebody like a Greg really helped me, figure out who I was, because a lot of my identity to that point was defined by my success athletically and academically. Like I was always decently smart and always pretty good at sports. So when those things were more challenging at the college level, you can see how quickly your identity will feel like it's crumbling if you don't have the right proper foundations in place. So how I was able to navigate it was, one, being able to ask for help. I I honestly think I could have even asked for help sooner. Like when I was a freshman, I really struggled with the transition from high school to college. And, we used to do the preseason training schedule for volleyball is brutal. You're in the gym like 7 to 8 hours a day doing double days and your body's exhausted and you can barely even like do everyday tasks because your thighs are so sore from all the bench squats and the all the reps from doing defensive drills. I'm like flashing in my mind through that. um so I think I once I realized my mental health was kind of starting to take a toll from all these things where my identity was a little rocked. I didn't feel like I was performing very well athletically. I had a lot of fear that I was going to get kicked off the team for some reason because a lot of walk-ons didn't make it through to that point when I was there. Like I had this like fear in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's only a matter of time before they kick me out. So that really, I like ruminated on that concept a lot because it was kind of a lingering theme from my time there. So I think the biggest key was, being able to set aside my pride, ask for help. And then, Greg really helped build me up in other ways where I didn't have to rely on my volleyball career as such a foundational piece of my identity. It was just kind of a part of what I did. And um, I think reframing that experience to let it work for me instead of it defining me, like he always primed my mind to say, how can you use this experience to get to where you want to go in life? And that reframe simply helped me overcome challenges in a lot of ways because it kind of made it into a bigger picture instead of it just being, such a small, minuscule focal point in my life. So I think that was the biggest key, asking for help and then applying the practices that I was learning through Greg.
I really like what you said about asking for help because that's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing to out ask for help for
Mhm.
about anything or from anyone. It's never a bad thing.
It's hard for athletes to ask for help, I think, especially high achieving people, because you're especially at that level, there's a lot of things that you power through, discomfort in your body, sleepless nights, 3 hours of sleep. There's a lot of things that you just kind of have to block out and just be like, I have to just power through, just power through, just power through. So I think I was in that category too, where I was really reluctant to open up or ask for help. Like I didn't even want to tell my teammates that I was struggling. Not a lot of people knew, honestly, what I was going through behind the scenes because I struggled to open up in that category, but it's not really necessarily accepted in athletics still to be vulnerable. And there's a balance to that too, right? Like I don't want to go into practice crying every day. I just did all of my stuff behind the scenes. But yeah, it's hard to ask for help, but it's really an important part of the journey for life, athletics, otherwise.
Hmm. As as you mentioned earlier, your parents attended Michigan, your father was a wrestler there, and your mother was a cheerleader. Just in general, what did it mean to you to carry on that Wolverine legacy in your family?
Yeah, it was awesome. My family still they hold season tickets for football games. They're like diehard Michigan Wolverines. And I know they were so proud of me that I was not only attending Michigan, but also playing volleyball there. Like that was such a cool experience for them to be able to come back for games and support me in the same gym. I think that my dad wrestled in because Cliff Keen used to be I think it was the old wrestling facility for a while. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but anyways, it was really special for them to be able to come back, not only for football games, but also to support me. I think they made more friends out of the experience than I even did. And I made a lot of friends while I was at Michigan, but they loved the volleyball parents there. And my grandpa, who's no longer with us, always took great pride in bragging to people that his granddaughter was playing sports at Michigan just like he did. So really special and just an honor to be a part of it for sure.
I gotta ask, how excited were you when the football team won the national championship?
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I'm glad I even went. My boyfriend's the one that convinced me to go. I was in the stands in the lower bowl, thanks to Greg Harden, um, watching this happen. And it was just like so nice to experience a team that was clutch in the moments that required it the most, because for so long as a Michigan football fan, we're used to being like an inch away and then it taken all away. So it was really special to see this group of kids really come together, rally behind the cause, and to be there in person. My parents were there, my brother was there. It was really cool. I flew in for 24 hours and left. I was in that day, out the other day. It was awesome. And I was just really happy for the guys, happy for the staff, happy for Jim Harbaugh. I know he's no longer there, but there was a lot that I imagine they combated behind the scenes. That was not easy to, rip their way through all the chaos and all the naysayers and all the extracurricular storylines. Like, it's impressive that those young kids were able to mentally rise above everything that was thrown at them that season. So it was really, really fun.
Mm. It is so cool that you got to be there in person for that. I mean, that's one of those special moments that you'll just never ever forget.
Yep, that's what my boyfriend said. He's like, "Are you crazy?" Because I was like, "I don't know," because that's how jaded you get when you work in sports. But I'm like, when you work in sports broadcasting, I'm like, I've done college football sideline games. I've covered a Stanley Cup final. I've covered the NBA playoffs. I've covered Major League Baseball playoffs. Like, been to the World Series. I'm like, do I need to go to another sporting event? He's like, this might not ever happen in your lifetime. You have to go. I'm like, okay, fine. So I did. And it was great and very worth the experience.
Yes, for sure. Now let's get into sort of your broadcasting journey here. You got started in broadcasting doing volleyball analysis for BTN, and through a lot of persistence, you got that audition for that role.
Yeah.
What do you remember from that first audition?
Yeah, great question. You're really thorough with your prep. It's impressive. Um, and I remember I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was doing, but there was something inside of me that believed that I could do it. Like, I would watch people do the same thing that I wanted to do. And I was like, I feel like I can do that. I mean, it's kind of one of those jobs that everyone feels like they can do, I guess, maybe not. But I was like, I just feel like it's a good fit for everything that I like to do, sports, talking, whatever. So I remember being against the odds because at that point in time, they actually told me that the position was filled. And I lobbied for the audition because I was like, okay, that's fine. I can take the no. I was devastated to hear the no, but I was like, at least can I come in and audition? Because if I suck at this, let's save each other time. I don't want to just be hoping on this dream that's never going to get anywhere anyway. So let's get, just, if you don't mind, can I just come in and show you if I'm even an option moving forward? And that bit of persistence and recovering after a no is what actually got me in the door with Big Ten Network, because then a studio position opened up where it was very, very small role, maybe had like 5 minutes of airtime once a week, 3 months in the fall when volleyball season was. But it was those early repetitions that gave me, the foundational pieces that I needed. But I remember feeling really nervous, to answer your question, really nervous, but also hopeful. Like, what the heck? What is this AI thing? This happens to me all the time. I need to figure out what the
I've
little
never
bubble
seen that
bubble.
before.
I know you haven't.
No, I haven't at
It
all.
happens on my devices. Is somebody hacking me? This is weird. This happens on FaceTime too. Strange. Anyways, sidebar. Back to what we were talking about. I was very nervous, but I was very hopeful and also confident, because with blind confidence, I'll say. I like believed in myself. A lot of the work that I did with Greg to that point of, getting beaten down a little bit mentally speaking with the volleyball stuff, I was able to manage the situation, think better than I would have if I didn't have that bit of adversity in college volleyball, because I'm like, oh, a little no here or there never hurt anyone. Like, this is easy. At least it was a nice no. So yeah, that was my anticipation leading into the audition. And then it ended up going decently well. I was probably terrible, to be honest, but they were so nice to me, and they at least saw potential in me. So that was a good starting point.
And what was the process like developing your on-air and on-camera presence during your early broadcasts?
Yeah, it was a lot of coaching. I sought out coaching from the high level executives at Big Ten Network a lot. And I was ready to face the criticism because at Michigan, we didn't have a journalism program. So basically I was an untrained journalist at that point. So I knew nothing, and I treated it as such, that I'm an athlete. I want to get better. Please coach me. Like I would go watch film of myself, which is so uncomfortable to do, to like watch and hear yourself at first when you're not used to how you sound on TV. I still don't really love watching myself on TV. It's kind of weird. But or like hearing my voice, I'm like, oh. Um, but I would watch some clips back with my bosses, and they would give me really pointed feedback of like, do this, this was wrong, 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 wrong. It was a lot of, again, like nitpicking, but it made me so much better for the years that I had missed in not getting the repetition like my classmates did, because they had a formal broadcast journalism degree. All I had to my background was a high level sports background. So I was like, okay, well, I can at least leverage this. Now I need training on that end. So I was able to bridge the gap, but it required a lot of humility and self-awareness, because it's not easy to get critiqued when, especially after you think you're doing a good job, and then they're like, no, do this, this, and this. You're like, oh, okay, I'm not that good. It's that mind game of like confidence, but still being humble enough to get better.
Yes, yes, for sure. Now, as part of your work with the Big Ten Network, you did an amazing piece. It's on your YouTube channel, on your friendship with the late Michigan State punter Mike Sadler. It's a wonderful piece you did, and you did
Thank
an
you.
amazing job with it, really. What did it mean to you to honor his legacy and tell the story of the friend that you knew off the field?
Yeah, great question. Honestly, that the passing of Mike Sadler gave me a lot of purpose behind, my life and just my career in general. Like it was so crazy the way that football game happened too. Like it was always my goal when I entered this profession to get to college football. And Mike, of course, was a connection of just somebody that played Big Ten college football. Of course, we always had the banter between he and I, between Michigan State and Michigan. He loved to chirp me because at that time, Michigan State was much better at football than we were. And he was a part of the Rose Bowl winning team. And he was, he's funny and witty. But at the time of him passing, I was really lucky that I got to spend some time with him maybe a week before he passed away. And it was like some crazy happenstance situation, because I was living away from Grand Rapids, where we're from at that point, and one of my trips got flipped around. And if I hadn't flipped my trips, I wouldn't have seen him. I like would have missed him by a weekend or whatever. So I decided to book my trip to go home a little hour earlier, or sorry, a weekend earlier. And I guess to give you a lens into our friendship, he just came over to the house, which is what we normally would do. My parents usually were the hosting house. I made him a big pot of Kraft mac and cheese. We just laughed and laughed and laughed and joked and just spent quality time. Honestly, he just felt like a brother to me. It was such a devastating loss in that way, because there are only, a handful of people you tend to come across in life that really seem to get you and understand you and just unconditionally love you in the ways that Mike always did for me. So that kind of rocked my world a bit, to be honest with you, when that happened. So circling back to what I said before, when the opportunity came about from Big Ten Network, after I was doing, and this is the kind of the strange weaving of the path coming back to Big Ten, because at that point I was with the National Hockey League Network, NHL Network, and MLB Network in New York. And then Big Ten Network offered me a deal to come back to Chicago. And in that deal was this Big Ten pregame football show called BTN Tailgate, which I was one of the hosts for 4 years or 5 years. And they were like, the first BTN Tailgate is going to be at Michigan State. And I was like, what are the odds? So I pitched it of just, or I wonder if my producer Mark might have pitched it of like, hey, we want to do a piece on Michael Sadler. Would you want to do it? Like, would you want to put something together? We want to do, his mom's going to be there and all these things. So it was really emotional. Honestly, it was really hard. I think it was part of my closure too with him to pay that story forward, of just try to as best I could illustrate who he was as a person off the field. He was an incredible human being. He was so kind, so caring, loyal, genuine, funny, quirky, like just such a great personality, unafraid and unapologetic to be himself. And that's something I always admired about Mike, and also have carried with me in my, journey here in sports broadcasting. I try not to take myself too seriously. I try to, be kind and try to be genuine, and also try to laugh at myself. I'm not perfect. I say funny things on air sometimes that I wouldn't normally say. And that's something where I'm like, oh, Mike would laugh at that. So that's kind of a glimpse into our friendship. And that was a really emotional moment for me. And it took me a while to really figure out my life from that point because it's hard when you're 25 years old and you lose one of your best friends. Life just doesn't make sense at that point. You're like, what really happens when we die? Like I was really faced with some big questions, and it tested me spiritually too. You know, I found my way um, in that regard as well to, you know, what I believe in. And I still think he's a guardian angel on my behalf. And I really feel his guidance strongly when magical things happen in my career, like getting a Michigan State college football game, which was always on my goal list. I always think it's an angel wink from him. So yeah, that was a big part of my journey, and it still is. Honestly, I still talk to him in my head, talk to him in my car. I still like to think he's with us in other ways.
Well, I think it's great that you were able to use your platform with BTN and use it to pay tribute to him and honor his legacy. I mean, you did an amazing job with that, and then of course, your the interview you did after they aired it with his mom. You know that's I think it's some of your best work. So just want
Well,
to give you
thank
props
you.
on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It was heart driven. It was hard to do. It was hard to encapsulate him in 2 minutes. You don't have that much time in those pieces, but it was. And I'm very grateful to Big Ten Network for letting me do that. That was, um, you know, a very personal touch, but it was really meaningful. And I will always hold my friends at Big Ten Network near and dear to my heart.
Yes, for sure. Now let's get into how I was introduced to you, reporting for my beloved Dallas Stars. Before coming to Big D, you were a reporter for the Hurricanes, the Blackhawks, and as you mentioned earlier, you had done stuff with NHL Network, so you were very experienced covering hockey. So, how did your role with the Stars specifically come about?
Yeah, great question. A lot of that came about when COVID hit, really, because I was I was in an interesting situation in COVID. As I'm sure you know, a lot of sports broadcasting positions are freelance based and they're not salary. So that just means you get paid when you work. You don't get paid if you don't work. And sometimes you're in deals where you've got a guaranteed amount of money on the table, and sometimes you don't. And I was in a situation where I just had not guaranteed money, but I had my gigs booked in all different avenues of life. This will make sense once I get through this story. But anyways, long story short, COVID hit. I lost everything, lost all my work, all of it that I had booked. Nothing was guaranteed. So that also meant that I couldn't afford to live in Chicago anymore because I was like, we are all in that same boat where when is the world coming back? Our sports coming back? Will sports broadcasters ever be a thing again? Like, especially sideline reporters, we were close in contact. So I was kind of freaking out. So I lost everything for a little while there. And that's actually how pickleball broadcasting came into my life, because I then had this gap of time where I didn't normally have it. And moved down to Naples, Florida for like a temporary amount of time, started doing the pickleball thing. And then I thought I was done with broadcasting, to be honest with you. I was like, well, this might be where it ends. Like, nobody was hiring for full-time positions, especially during COVID. So I was like, okay, well, this just might be where it ends. And then the Dallas Stars randomly called. I had a good relationship with them years prior of just like a potential opportunity that didn't ever happen, but I had the contact there. And he reached out and said they were looking for an experienced reporter. They had not filled that role for a couple of years for various reasons. They just hadn't had somebody to fill the sideline role, and so they wanted to fill it with the right person that could, so they said, that had experience, that could jump in and hit the ground running, basically, that where they didn't have to groom somebody or teach them the ways, whatever, because they have a great broadcaster. I mean, Razor and you're spoiled. Josh and Razor are,
Hmm.
I think, the best voices in NHL. Like, put them on the national stage every weekend. Like, Dallas is spoiled. And the production guys behind the crew, Mark Vittorio, John Norton, like the best production staff. And I've been at the national level. They're the best. I love them. I like loved my experience in Dallas. Loved all the people. I can't even remember what the question was, but oh, how did the Dallas think about? So yeah. Anyways, they called. I went in for the interview. I'm like, I didn't think I was going to be back in sports broadcasting. I was kind of looking in other avenues, like maybe sales, maybe marketing, somewhere where I could be in Florida, warm in the sun. And then interview came through, and I was like, you know what? I've been out of work for over a year now, and it's a great opportunity, and it's a sport that I love in a city I love. The schedule's tough in that role. Like, I don't know how Razor's done it for so many years, or Josh. It's tough on your that schedule is really, really tough. You're living the life of a NHL hockey player, and it's exhausting. You know, it's you're eh, sometimes you'll be on the road for 12 days at a time. You'll be in 7 different cities. It's just crazy. But anyway, that's how it came about. And I loved my Valley Sports Southwest crew tremendously. And I was able to do some of the Texas Rangers stuff last year, which was awesome too. Winning a World Series was really cool. Um, yeah, so that's how it came about. And then the pickleball stuff kind of happened too. So I was really sad to leave Dallas. I don't know if I was fully ready to leave, but I had a great opportunity ahead as well in a bigger role. So to speak, sideline's really fun, but it's, I've been doing that for 12 years. So it's been nice to expand my portfolio in that way, where you can be a more significant role of the broadcast. Not to say that sideline reporters are not, but there's just a different challenge in different roles.
Well, I think it's pretty funny that you mentioned Naples, Florida, because that is actually where I'm at this moment right now. Yeah,
Oh, get
yeah,
out.
small
That's
world.
awesome.
It's crazy.
Such a small world. What brings you to Naples?
Yeah, well, just last year my family moved from Dallas to here.
Oh,
When I'm
so
not, so when
fun.
I'm not in yeah, at Arizona State for college, I'm here now.
Awesome. Well, that's so fun. Love Naples. The best.
Yeah. I got the nice beaches out here. Yeah, it's
Best. I love
not
it.
very sunny.
The best. The most peaceful, happiest life. I love it.
Yes, for sure. Now, when you were with the Stars, who were some of your favorite players to interview and interact with?
Oh gosh, hockey guys are so great across the board. Loved interviewing Sagan because he was always good with giving us a little bit more personality because the hockey guys can be a little like when you're interviewing. I'm like, come on, like I see you off camera and you have so much personality. So Sagan was always good about giving a little extra. Scott Wedgwood was fun. Jake Onger is always very humble. But I mean, honestly, off camera, all of them are so great. And Luke Glendening, when he was there, he's one of my buddies from college, so that was fun to be with Luke and Paige, his wife, there in Dallas. So I really enjoyed interviewing him, especially because I would be like, before we go on air, I'd be like, so what's the real scoop of what's happening? They'll only give you so much on the actual interview, but um, honestly, all those guys are great. I have nothing but positive things to say about the Dallas Stars and hockey guys in general. They're just so good, humble, funny, off ice funny people. I wish we could show more of their personality, but all these guys are afraid to show some personalities. They don't want it to be all about them. It's a whole hockey culture, but I really enjoy it. I can also be one step ahead of them with because I know what they're going to say with certain scenarios. I've been around it for so long. So I'd be like, okay, if I'm going to ask them a defensive question, for example, like if I'm talking to Miro's always super sweet, but a defenseman, I would say, okay, other than taking away time and space, what else? What else what's happening defensively? So I could kind of like catch their cliches before they would give me because that's one of the cliches. Take away time and space, good gaps, blah 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 blah. So that was one of the tricks of the trade.
Very, very nice, very nice. Um, I think I actually saw that you were also back in Dallas just recently for some PPA action, right?
I was, yes, indeed. I made it to game 5. I'm so bummed it didn't turn out the way we wanted, but I love going back to Dallas. I saw so many good friends that live there, and Dallas Stars always take such good care of me when I'm there. I got to sit in the box with some cool people. It's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I can t tell you that on behalf of all the Stars fans out there, we still miss you on our broadcast, but
Um,
but seriously, just I know I've said this before, but thank you so much for the great work, the amazing work you did, because you
oh,
were
thank you.
fantastic and lots of great energy, charisma, and also great professionalism as well.
Well, that's sweet. Thank you so much. It was honestly so fun and such a pleasure. Dallas Stars fans are so nice. So nice. I miss you guys.
Now, in addition to being a reporter, of course, you also do play-by-play for pickleball, which is so cool. What What was it like getting into play-by-play, and how cool has it been for you to see, the rise in popularity for pickleball over these past couple years?
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Fastest growing sport in America. How could it not take off? And that was kind of the vision I held, I guess, when I was out of work in Naples, Florida, chilling at my parents' place. I was like, this sport has legs and it's gonna take off. And I think COVID was a part of that explosion. But it's been amazing because back then I was like, man, if I could just land a job that I could talk about pickleball, that'd be great. Because I was listening to some of the broadcasts that they had going out on YouTube at the time. And I was like, I feel like I could help them because they didn't really have like a structure to it, I guess. It was just kind of like throw two people on the mic. I've never done broadcasting before. And maybe some people prefer that. I guess I'm more of like a sports junkie where I like a little bit more organized of a broadcast. It's easier for me to listen to it. Um, so I was like, well, maybe I could help them. So that was actually my entry point into play by play. And I did a little bit of play by play leading into that point. But actually, my work with Big Ten Network as a volleyball analyst, calling it from that seat really helped me from the play by play seat because I had worked so many games alongside somebody that was the setup person. That's what I like to call the play by play is, kind of stay out of the way, but set your analysts up. So I had that background, which really helped me understand the role of what I was stepping into with play by play. And then, of course, I had a high level understanding of pickleball because I was playing it every single day in COVID. And I was actually exposed to the sport back in 2006 before it was cool. My gym teacher taught it to us, and I was obsessed with it then, but then it just kind of disappeared. Um, but the fact that I can sit here today, you know, 4 years, 3 years later, and then that point in time where it's like my full-time job and I get to travel the country and talk about pickleball is amazing. I mean, and I'm very grateful to my employers at Tennis Channel for launching Pickleball TV. And I know we still have so much room to grow, but it's really an honor and very special for me to be able to just be a part of it. And at the broadcast level too, I really enjoy helping people. So there's not, you sometimes I work with a very experienced analyst, and then other times I work with somebody that's never done TV. So I like to also take people under my wing and help them out with what I know from the broadcast side. It's not like I know everything, but I do know what translates well to TV to some extent. So yeah, that part's really fun. It's really cool. And there's not a lot of female play-by-play people out there across all sports. So I think that's a really cool thing too, for me to be doing it with a sport that's pretty equal for men and women. Just really cool. Like we've got a 17-year-old girl that's like crushing it on the PPA tour and she's getting paid as much as the guys. Like that's cool. And I get to do, national broadcasts on Fox in between NFL games and be one of the voices of pickleball. It's just really all really cool and all really crazy. And I just honestly can't even believe that it has all come together like this, but it's been a really fun ride.
Do you think you'll ever maybe look into, doing play-by-play for, other sports as well?
Yeah, maybe. I guess we'll see. My path tends to just determine itself. The twists and turns that I experience are kind of interesting and always fun. So, I'm actually going to be doing some play-by-play for Big Ten volleyball this year, which will be really fun, especially because it's like as a former Big Ten player to be doing play-by-play, really cool. Love that. Um, and then I think we've got some national Fox windows there as well, maybe on CBS as well. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but that was a fun experience that I did last year. Might dabble in basketball, women's basketball this year. We'll see how that goes. Tennis I've done. I'm not sure. The only one that I'm not sure I'll want to dabble in, and I don't know if it's because I'm afraid of it or not, but would be football. Just because, I mean, as a woman, I've never played it. I'm not saying that just because you haven't played a sport, you can't do it. Because there are a lot of people in the play-by-play seat that haven't played the sports that they're doing play-by-play for. You just have to understand the rules. But I guess that's the one that I feel the most nervous by because I feel like maybe that's the most criticized one for, the friends that I've have that do that on the football side. It's not easy being one of the few ladies that does a male dominated sport. So we'll see about football, but I'm really happy with where I'm at with pickleball and volleyball. We'll see what else comes about, but right now I'm just enjoying the ride.
Well, I'll say this, if you ever go into football play-by-play, I'll definitely be tuning in. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe down the line, and maybe down the line some NHL too, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And that, hey, that's the great thing about sports broadcasting, right? You never know what can happen.
It's very
Things
true.
are always changing, stuff's always happening.
It is. It's so true. Very, very true.
Hmm. Now, last question here. What is the biggest piece of advice that you have for aspiring sports broadcasters?
Love that question. There's a lot of layers to my advice, I guess, but the number one thing I would say is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like I can't like I get asked that a lot, or young girls are like, how can I get to where you are? And I'm like, I can't give you the exact blueprint of how you can get to this deep because trust me, if you were to do my path coming to this point, you might fall off your chair. It's a lot. Like I just did a lot of other random jobs as well as broadcasting to get to this point, and it was just kind of winding in there. But all of that, I did medical device sales on my way here. I brokered freight to truck drivers for a little bit. I was about to be a bartender. There's my path is not perfect, and nobody's is. Like, there's really no right or wrong way to do it. So I say if you have the passion to do something and you have the purpose behind it, and you have the self-awareness and the confidence belief system to know where you're at with it and push forward, then you will find a place um, in the world that you really want to pursue. But it does have to come from a genuine place, because if it's just for the attention or the wanting to be in the spotlight, that will just wear out very quickly, because it is a tough profession. It's not made for the weak. There's no objective way to determine whether or not you're doing a great job, a bad job, otherwise. Like, it is so subjective. There's going to be executives out there that love you. There's going to be executives out there that don't like your hair color, that don't like your style, that don't, there's so many things and so many no's that you can get. But so I would say there's no perfect blueprint to success. So know that, and know that whatever path you take is the right path. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Be prepared to cut your teeth and grind at a lower level. And even behind the scenes, like I took a lot of high school reps before I was able to get into the college scene even. So, and I cut highlights behind the scenes. I was logging football games. I was assisting the production crew on how to produce a show, which helped me in my profession in front of the camera. So if you can't get a job in front of the camera, work at it a little bit behind the camera. Don't get stuck there. But I mean, unless you want to be, sometimes behind the camera is fun too. I think I would really enjoy my life as a producer as well. Like I think I could produce some of these shows. But anyways, so no perfect way to get there. Be prepared to cut your teeth and put in the time and the reps and the effort, and be nice, be kind to people, like treat people well. Even, I mean, obviously when you're just starting out, there's no reason to be mean to people, but especially when you climb up and you, so to speak, make it, try to keep your ego at bay and still treat people kindly, because um, that's gonna get you farther in life than getting to a career path pinnacle ever will. So, and it's a very, very small world. So you don't want to burn any bridges, and take the high road, because not everyone's going to operate like that. And that's okay.
Yep, absolutely. That is some fantastic advice. Michelle, what else can I say other than thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to talk with you today? Just truly, truly an honor.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you. And thank you for your persistence and you were on it. I do always try to help people, but with this busy schedule, I'm like, I usually leave it up to the person to make it happen. And you were totally on it and very dedicated with your follow-ups and your questions. So I really appreciate you also taking the time to do that, because that makes me feel really respected, and also makes me want to help you. So that's another piece of advice for you youngsters out there. Um, you never came across as entitled, and I see that sometimes, which I appreciate very much about the way you pursued this conversation. So I would advise for the young people that want to do this to follow in Sam's footsteps there, do your prep work, respect people's time, and don't be entitled to the conversation because we're busy people, but we will help you if you have good intentions.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Michelle. Truly, truly, like, and just once again, thanks for letting me have this chance to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Happy to help and good luck with everything. You are well on your way.